My first job in the Department of Defense was with the U.S. Army at what at the time was the Harry Diamond Laboratories in Delphi, Maryland, later became the Army Research Lab. And one of my first jobs as an engineer at the lab was to manage the laboratory's inventory of military standards and specifications. I also helped to deal with the lab's efforts to screen products against the GIDAP list, Government Industry Data Exchange Program, another key activity of DISPO. That work introduced me to the importance of military standards and their use, both in design, development, and acquisition.
So the examples of standardization and how it benefits our society are all around us. When you go to the hardware store and buy a garden hose, you never have to think about whether or not the threads on the connector are going to match up with the threads on the spigot at your house. As director, and particularly with my work with NATO, I've had the opportunity to travel to a bunch of different countries. And it always seemed like magic to me that I could take out my debit card and stick it in an ATM machine, whether I was in Paris or Beijing or Split, Croatia. And magically, by putting in a few numbers, money would come out in the local currency. What an incredible achievement of all kinds of standardization to make that possible. And then even more so, when I would go and check into the hotel, I could, in just a few minutes, log on to that hotel's Wi-Fi. That's maybe one of the most widely used standards in the world is IEEE's 802.11, and that helps define the Wi-Fi protocols that are used all around the world and make it possible for you and me to log into Wi-Fi wherever we are.
We've had legislation that's put a strong emphasis on modular open system architectures, or MOSA, as a tool by which the government can improve the way it designs and delivers systems. I'm convinced that you can't do MOSA without careful consideration of the interfaces that exist between each of the modular components in an architecture. How you define those interfaces differs component to component, but you have to define them, you have to document them, otherwise you don't have a modular system architecture. And those interfaces are effectively specifications and standards, whether we call them that or not. I think that all the design practices that we conduct, thinking about systems with an intent to be able to upgrade them over time, to be able to insert new technology, to be able to think about new applications of our systems, to think about the ability to plug and play new capabilities that both can challenge adversaries and can deliver new opportunities to warfighters. I think that's a critical way to be thinking about design in the 2020s. And I think specification standards, whether formal, informal, whether defined in an open source environment or through military specification documentation, I think those are critical to being able to deliver the kind of products that our warfighters expect the department to be developing today.
Whether we're addressing weapon system sustainment or incorporating emerging and disruptive technologies into new capabilities, we standardize to improve operational performance and reduce cost, taking into account form, fit, function, and mission needs. The Defense Standardization Program provides the framework for military departments and defense agencies to develop requirements documents to meet the needs of the DoD and adopt non-government standards where practical. These documents are published in ASSIST, which is the single authoritative source for defense standardization documents.